County DHR. Miss Gladney, how may I help you?
Hi, yes, Mr. Sanders, please.
Say again?
Sanders, Mr. Sanders?
Mr. Sanders isn't at this number. May I ask what this is concerning?
Yes, I just wanted to speak to Mr. Sanders. Did you say he's no longer with DHR?
Yes, ma'am.
So he's no longer with DHR.
Well, he's no longer at this number.
Is
At
he?
this number.
Yes, ma'am, and I was wondering if I could get transferred to Mr. Sanders.
I'm not certain if I have it. You can call 251-450-7000 and speak to the switchboard operator.
Thank
and they
you.
can help you.
Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
ma'am. Hi, yes, Sunshine. I was wanting to speak with Mr. Sanders.
Oh, he's been gone.
He's
Not here anymore.
he's not there anymore. Okay, thank you,
Hasn't been
ma'am.
here for over a year. Yeah, he's gone.
Okay, well, thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thank
Have a good
you.
afternoon.
You too.
You've reached the voicemail for Bill Benson with State DHR Independent Living Program. Please leave your name and number, and I'll return your call as soon as possible. Thank you.
Record your message at the tone. When you are finished, hang up or press pound for more options.
Mr. Bill Benson, this is Miss Valerino. Please call me back at your earliest convenience. Please at 251-327-4790. This is Wednesday the 11th. The time is 3:10 p.m. Please give me a call as soon as possible at 251-327-4790. Thank you.
You have reached the Department of Human Resources. For English, press 1. Para español, oprima 2. For all other languages, thank you for calling Mobile County DHR. For Mobile Food Assistance, for Child Welfare, you have reached the Mobile County Department of Human Resources. is Susan.
Miss Haggerty, this is Miss Valerino.
Yes, hi.
I understand that you are Miss Brotnick's supervisor.
No, Miss Brundtle's supervisor is Miss Millsap.
Okay, well, I want to know, first of all, what happened to Mr. Sanders.
He left the agency.
Yes, and you know why he left the agency?
Mm-hmm.
Why did he leave the agency?
I don't discuss personnel matters with you.
Yes, ma'am, I understand that, but you know, I find it very clear that he left the agency shortly after the last time I saw him, which was when Miss Brotnick took over, and I didn't see him again. Alexander was his last case that I'm aware of, and he refused to lie in court. And not only that, but Miss Mack, who was the previous worker to Mr. Sanders, Miss Mack was no longer the caseworker, yet she showed up in court and committed perjury and said that Miss Valerino was not cooperating. Prior to that, she said that I wasn't working altogether while I was working at the Battle House Hotel, working full-time. Okay? And prior to that, she said that I wasn't cooperating with the Millers. When Mr. and Mrs. Miller didn't want to get a background check, even though they have a healing room here in Mobile, and even though I was living underneath their home, and they have a safe home, they have done foster care before here in the area. And so all of this is just to postpone reunification with my son, to separate, purposely separate. And now he has been placed with a single man. When Alexander was with Mr. Sanders, Alexander never had any health issues. Ever since Miss Brotnick took over, Alexander's glasses, he lost his glasses, so we got him another pair of glasses that were too big for his frame. Now they're missing a temple. Butched up haircuts, okay, all kinds of scars and bruises, and then allegations against my son and being passed around. All of this crap while under Miss Brotnick's. Besides that, she went in court and she didn't need a supervisor to lie for her. She committed perjury in court and said that Alexander was scared of me when I videotaped Alexander. And Alexander clearly said, "No, Mommy, I'm not scared of you." Miss Brotnick oppresses my son, tells him he's not able to answer questions about, have you been molested and is anybody touching you? Because these kids do get passed around and get sexually molested. Okay, and I don't appreciate your department taking my son away from me to place him with a single man.
I understand you had court yesterday?
Yes, I understand. You know that. You went in court, not the last time, but the time prior to that, and sat there in that private room and told me that Alexander was scared of me because you are using psychology to intimidate and to you use it as I'm looking for the word is torture. It's a psychological and emotional torture is what y'all are doing. It's just like the KGB back in the days. Okay, you're using dated, stuff that the American people don't even know that y'all resort to those kind of tactics when you pick up children and to separate children. The woman who picked up my child picked him up without a court order, without a warrant. She went straight to my son's school purposely at 3 p.m., purposely on a Friday, used intimidation and bullying tactic. You know how to pick out the women that are going to go out there and pick up these children. You pick them tall and bulky, okay, to intimidate. And most of them black. And I'm not saying that I'm a racist, but there is a pattern here. Most of the people that pick up these children, they have that physical appearance. Now, when this happened, I had never dealt with THR in my life. My son and I were in moving transition. That woman used intimidation. She lied wanted to know about Alexander's father, who has not paid child support since he left. That is none of y'all's business, okay, where his dad is or isn't, because if his dad has not paid child support, it's none of y'all's business to be getting involved in family drama. To instead of offering the quote-unquote human resources, what you're doing is taking what very little people have away from them and separating kids. And now you've put him with a man who's supposed to be a better parent than I am, because he's a single man. I don't know this man. Okay? This is not fair to my son. When he was with Mr. Sanders, he refused to commit perjury in court. That's why he's no longer with the agency. I don't want Miss Brotnick as a caseworker anymore. She has neglected my son and purposely passed him around and has all these allegations, because this is all done to set him up for jail. My son was a straight A student, and he's an artist, and he's gifted. I don't appreciate this crap. And this is not the way that I normally speak, but this is the way that it has become, because y'all do this to families. You do this to families. You purposely postpone reunification so that the children lose faith in their parents, lose trust in their own parents, and y'all can get your bonuses. You know, the Department of Human Services has been sued out of state. People are already starting to wake up and sue y'all's butts. And it's long overdue. I don't want Miss Brotnick as the caseworker, because what they're doing now is a little game. It's like, oh yes, go see Miss Brown. Miss Brown told me yesterday when she got out of court, oh, I'm so glad court let out early because I'm going to have time to go do my nails. That's exactly what she told me. Okay? And when she gave me her phone number, she said, call my secretary and let her know what your schedule is for next week. Well, they don't give me my schedule next week. They give me options, and if I'm available, I'm available, and if I'm not available, I'm not available. But I cannot be wishy-washy with my business, because they don't like that. You're either available or you're not. So Miss Brown said, call Miss Brotnick and find out when y'all can schedule Wednesday or Thursday. So I called Miss Brown's secretary. I called Miss Brotnick, called me today and was asking me. I said, well, when you and Miss Brown figure it out, let me know as soon as possible. She said, okay. I called Miss Brown's office. Miss Brown's secretary was like, well, Miss Brown wants to know when you're available. And I told her 3 times. I said, I told you I don't know, because my job does not let me know until the schedule comes out. Then they give me an option, and I have to say yay or nay that I'm available, yes or no, right then and there, or within a few hours, because I cannot be wishy-washy, because they've got to make the schedule and get it approved. So
where are you working now?
I am not going to discuss that with you.
Okay.
And I know Mr. Sanders quit because he did not like how unethical DHR conducts their business. He was in court and refused to commit perjury in court, which this whole thing was based on lies. My quote-unquote evaluation was a joke. When I called Mr. Mott, Jerry Mott, he told me, I called him immediately after Alexander was picked up, and I was told, you need to cooperate, even though my rights were being violated, my son's rights were being violated, even though my son was picked up based on allegations that I was potentially suicidal, and even though DHR did not bring up the fact that I was potentially suicidal, they brought up, how many children do you have? How old are they? Where's your oldest son? I said, in Mississippi in college. Well, who has custody of him? I said, that's irrelevant. Who has custody of him? I said, that's irrelevant. Who has custody of him? And I turned around and looked at Miss Catherine Arnold, and I said, this is irrelevant. And Miss Catherine Arnold said, cooperate and answer the question. Cooperate and answer the question. And I said, he's in Mississippi and his dad had custody of him, but that doesn't apply because he's 19 and in college on his own in the dorms. And what she wanted to do was, they call it, like they want to arouse the feelings and the emotions so that you start losing it in court. Because nowadays, well, not nowadays, it's been going on for a long time, psychologists are using dirty psychology to not only perform unethical studies on people, but also to, separate. They're using it as a weapon against the family unit here in America. And this woman asked me, do you know why you lost custody of your son? And I looked at Ms. Arnold and I said, that's irrelevant. And she turned around and said, cooperate and answer the question. So I answered the question, okay? And I said, honestly, I don't know. I guess because I didn't have a job. I was honorably discharged from the military. I worked as an infertility clinic manager. I was honorably discharged with good conduct medal. I never was a troublemaker. Growing up, I graduated high school. I was given the opportunity to get an art scholarship. And my stepfather suggested that I go in the military instead because getting an art scholarship was, according to him, not going to be a good career, that I was going to be fiddle-farting my life around. So I thought, well, I want to do what you do in the military. I want to be in the military intelligence in the Army like you. So I can travel to Latin America. He was a Latin American specialist, and I translated for my stepfather in writing. At least once that I remember, I wrote another officer and translated his letter in Spanish. Now, when my stepfather said to me, no, don't do that because they're going to cut your hair and it's not family oriented. You should join the Air Force instead. So I joined the Air Force, but I didn't want to kill people because I don't like guns, even though I learned how to carry out an M16. But the problem is, here in America, a lot of veterans are getting screwed out of their jobs and screwed out of their benefits because, for one, they're disabled. Or if they're not disabled, it's like, well, they're at risk because, they've been trained with a weapon and they've been trained with whatever they've been trained. And now, it's like this PTSD. All of this PTSD is making the psychologists richer. All of these wars that are being created, while all these nations get behind closed doors, they plot war, okay, and brainwash the people into thinking that they are the enemy, while behind closed door, all of these politicians and officers really are shaking hands. Okay, a great example is that Vietnam War. We know about the Pentagon Papers. We know that war shouldn't have gone on, at least not have gone on as long as it did. But what happened is they plotted war because they want casualties, okay? And what happens is the guinea pigs are free guinea pigs for the scientific elite, to include the psychologists who are doing the PTSD, okay? That's what it's all about. It's about robotics and it's about, IT and all of this. I've had enough with all of these mass incarcerations. What y'all are doing to the children is you're setting them up. You're putting allegations in their records and allegations and setting them up for failure for the jail system, because the people benefiting from the jail system are the people monitoring the phone calls and monitoring what they do and doing human studies. It's like y'all are learning from us, the little people. You're learning from us, and then you turn around and teach everybody, and then the reporters go on TV and say, oh, according to psychologists, the latest news is that, eating broccoli is good for you. Smoking is bad for you. Oh, no, scheisse. Then why didn't they take the smoke out since they've known about it? No, they wait for everybody and their brother to die out of cancer and from secondhand smoke or from smoking. And then it was still in the restaurant business in 2001. But God forbid that I, some little short Hispanic from a third world country come to America and point that out. The fact that we need a restaurant with a master menu, with a kitchen in the middle, so people can see how their food is being prepared, and with the smoke outside. No, God forbid, because I don't have a degree. No, because I'm not busy watching people go to the bathroom and people in jail, whether they're guilty or not. You know how many people were incarcerated falsely, accused with implanted evidence here in Alabama? These cops admitted to targeting black Afro-Americans. And now they're targeting anybody who's a quote-unquote, knows too much. I've had enough. When I'm working inside my home teaching my son sign language in Spanish, English, and Portuguese, and I'm busy being a mama, it's like, it's pointed out to me that I need to go to work. I need to go to work as a housekeeper, or after having served the Air Force as a clinic manager, mind you. No, I have had enough of this. Now, what is the point? What is the point of all this organization here in America, is I want to know. My son has been separated from me for what? And me, I have had to lower myself to this level of communicating, because when I talk like this, like I normally do, it's like, no, we're going to get her to talk, and we're going to get her to, snap out of it or whatever. I don't like to lower myself to this level. I don't like to see how many people are being exploited by our jail system, and how many people in the DHR system are being exploited, passed around, raped, murdered, being put into the attorneys who say, oh, well, we need to sue the DHR because now something bad has happened. Why do the attorneys wait? Why? Because then they can make money, because it's a death, or it's a rape, or it's a wrongdoing. So it's in their benefit for something bad to happen to these kids. But if no kids get picked up, if families get reunited, when they shouldn't have been separated to begin with, but when families are provided with the resources at the right time, in the right household, for the right reasons, then there's no need for attorneys to get your kid back, and there's no need for DHR workers. No, what needs to happen is we need to understand, first of all, that DHR needs to be sued for all the wrongdoings they've been doing for the years. That's how attorneys need to be fighting for us. They need to be fighting for us for the human rights. All those people that are incarcerated in jail, that shouldn't be there, that are there for petty crimes, that are there for false identity, or mistaken identity, or implanted evidence, or allegations, okay? First of all, our jail system is what's sucking up American money, okay? And then it's just the money is going in the wrong direction. The caseworkers are taken away from the people to sell these kids out to somebody else who's willing to pay for these kids. Because I know that y'all's training teaches you no kids, no job. No kids, no money. No kids, no bonuses. Okay? And the kids are getting screwed, the parents are getting screwed, and the only ones who benefit is you for dirty money. Now, I do believe that you can make money by doing good things for the families. The whole thing needs to be restructured, because somebody a long time ago wrote this, and what we write today will be for them one day. We know that. We know that somebody comes up with these plans. Somebody comes up with these ideas, and then they implement it, and then everybody else, it trickles down. And y'all are trained that if no kids, no job security. Well, it needs to be like no families to help, no money. The money needs to come and it needs to be given to the families, and it needs to be given to the workers who are helping the families genuinely, not by taking kids away and saying, well, so and so is willing to pay a lot of money for a little dark-haired boy or a little blonde girl, or so and so over there who's not married and doesn't have kids. He's willing to pay for a little boy because, I don't know why he wants a little boy. He's not married. He's never had his own kids. But, we can't discriminate against the gay, and we cannot discriminate because he's single, and we can't speculate. We don't know. It's advertised that the foster parents don't need to be perfect parents to be foster parents. Yet, the biological parents get scrutinized for not being perfect. This is just ridiculous. Because we went to war with Vietnam years ago, not because we didn't want communism back home. No, it was all about just using our weapons of mass destruction and being able to test this stuff out, being able to have casualties so that we could have, the doctors and the psychologists and all of that. Do you know how many unethical psychological experiments have gone on in these wars through the years? That's what's holding us back as a humanity. When the angels calm down, we're going to be Team Earth real quick. And I'm not making this up. When I was saying that, we needed to take the smoke outside the restaurant business years ago, it's like, who are you, little lady? I even had a lady asking me if I was married when I was pregnant with Jacob. This Caucasian lady came up to me, and she just assumed that because I'm Hispanic and I'm sitting out there waiting for my husband, sitting on a bench, she just assumed that I was just this unmarried little maid that came here back in Mississippi, that was sitting there because I looked like I was 14 when I was an adult. I really did. I looked like I was 14 years old in the face. But that still gave that woman no right to come in my business and ask me if I was married. It's like I was waiting on my husband. She just assumed that I was some kind of out of wedlock. And then, I get criticized when I hook up with an American man because, you want to be white. You don't want us Hispanic men. It's like, okay, so years later, fast forward, not only do I hook up with a Latino man, okay, but he's illegal. He's illegal and he's poor, okay? And this is after I was a homeless veteran out there being cheated out of my own home, which I purchased with my benefits. I get cheated out of my home. I end up being a walking and driving a homeless veteran when I met Darciso, Alexander's father, who has not paid child support. He knew. I told him I bought my own house on Dove Lane with my VA benefits. I was asked to move out after our divorce was final, after 5+ years of going to court. Darciso said, well, you're just a lazy person. You need to go find you a job as a housekeeper. Because all of my Brazilian friends, all their wives work outside as housekeepers. And I said, well, excuse me, Darciso, but I came here legally. Excuse me, but if those girls had come here legally, they wouldn't want to be housekeeping. And he said, well, you need to get something. So, I was looking for a job here in Mobile. I came here to Mobile and was looking for a job. Even as a housekeeper, I did not have any luck. So I just decided to have my son and stay at home. Then I had a man from Ecuador come up to me and tell me, well, aren't you going to go work outside the home? You should consider working over there with the airplanes. Well, I had just birthed Alexander, had a C-section, okay, and was teaching him Spanish, English, Portuguese, and sign language. Now, this man, years later, when his wife got pregnant, because he had always wanted a little boy, and he would sit there and watch me nurse Alexander, and I was just like, I don't feel comfortable with some man sitting there watching me nurse my baby, but Alexander needed to nurse, and he's just sitting there watching me nurse my baby. And he's like, oh, I've always longed for a little boy. And then his wife didn't want to have children, but when his wife decided to have children, they had a little boy. They named him Jacob. He asked me if I was okay with that. I said, why wouldn't I? Jacob is the name. So they named his son Jacob, and he said, well, I want my wife to stay home because I work hard for her to stay home. I don't want her to work outside the home. So it was okay for him to come over and mind my business and tell me, you tell me somebody's not getting paid for this. There's some kind of lottery, some kind of wicked lottery, some kind of game going around here in Mobile. Because when I lived at the Carriage Inn Apartments, I was told by the manager assistant who took over the manager assistant that went on sick leave because she was hospitalized for a long time. The new manager assistant told me, Susan, don't trust any of those men. Don't trust any of those Hispanic men. Just don't trust anybody. Don't trust anybody. That's exactly what she told me. Okay? And I was living practically by myself while Darciso was out of state. Practically by myself. In order to be able to go from point A to point B, I had to ask the neighbor, and that's how I ended up meeting my neighbor from Ecuador, okay, who was roommates with a roommate, and eventually I got married to Carlos. So I've been married twice, but Carlos married me, and then he started telling people that he married me for papers. And then he told me that he was going to go out of state and that he couldn't bring me with him. And he told me that he couldn't take me to Chile to meet his family. And I said, oh, I see. You're using me for papers and you're not even paying me. So I'm not participating in any illegalities here because I did not pay. I did not get paid by him for papers, and we were divorced before. We were separated when I started a relationship with Andy. Now I did not come here to be whoring around. I did not come here to be passed around. This is why that lady at the Carriage Inn Apartments told me, do not trust any of these people. Don't, especially these men. Okay, that's exactly what she told me. She said Hispanic man, and then she said just don't trust anybody. So what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to just sit back and just let everybody, to include my mother, if it had not been for the fact that I look just like my biological father, I look just like my biological father and my grandfather. If it wasn't for the fact that I look just like them, I would surely think my mother was an adoptive mom. I would have believed that I was given to her to purposely mistreat, to purposely abuse, physically, emotionally, and psychologically, purposely, just to see if I was faithful in God. And I am faithful. My mother abused all of his children. Nobody criticized her. But you know what? I pointed it out to my mom. I did. I said, Mama, when Alexander went over there to Virginia, I was supposed to be temporarily until I got a job, because every time I asked my mother, Mom, can I come over there? She was busy with her boyfriend. She was busy with her life, and she would say, no, there's no room in here for you. What are you going to do? You owe Jeff money. Oh, I owe my stepfather money because of a divorce that took 5 years in the state of Mississippi. That attorney did not, work. Every time we go to court, they would do the same thing they're doing now. They reset it for 6 months from now. When I tried to go back in the military, I had to resign and say I couldn't go through with it because they were playing the game that oh no, we've got court. And I was like, well, you told me the court date was not until such and such date. And they were like, no, well, they're squeezing you in. Every time I moved, they did something else. It was like a chess, because they are watching my every move, because they are using the technology, to take advantage of my disability. so that they can have an advantage over me at all times. So no matter where I move or what I do, they're going to be ahead of me. Now, I have had enough. I don't care if America recycles me to my womb or goes all the way back to my great-great-grandma. I did not come here to steal anybody else's money. I am here in debt because of all this crap. I do not like to owe people money. I do not like to be without a car. I do not like to be unemployed, because even when I was unemployed, I was generating ideas. Please take the artificial colors and flavors out. Please take the nitrates out. I would do my own research and I would back it up. And I wouldn't say, well, I am, something that I'm not. No, I would say, this is Susan Catherine Valerino, and I am Susan Catherine Valerino Jones. I'm not making this up. I have family in Florida with the Jones last name, and I have family in Panama with the Valerino last name. But I came here as a child. Okay, when people ask me, where are you from? It's like, I've been here in the South longer than I've been anywhere else. And people still ask me, where are you from? Because you're not from here. It's like, I'm from Mother Earth. Okay? I am from Mother Earth. I am not from another planet. And, it's like we're looking up, we can see all the way up to Uranus. We can look up to Uranus, and we know that the Epsilon ring is the brightest ring. And bright is for B, as in Ben, for Benjamin, for sun, right, to the right. And it says so in the books. Up, 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 to the right. Okay, I've had enough. Do not tempt me. Tempting is not of God. Tempting is of the devil. Okay, tempting is not of God. And I've had enough hypocrisy in America, because if I work outside the home, I'm criticized. It's like, no, you're not good enough. You're not doing this good enough. I'm not going out there criticizing people, telling people you're not good enough. On the contrary, every time I write a letter or an email to somebody, I always try to point out the positive in the product, and I say, by the way, and I don't say you have to do it. No, I've always, been who I am. I am a mother. I am concerned about the quality as a consumer of the products, and I believe in your product, otherwise I wouldn't be giving you feedback. These people offer feedback. They welcome feedback. They welcome feedback. They post their phone number and their website, and you are free to contact them 24/7. And they don't call DHR to come pick up your kid because you gave them feedback. No, unlike some other people I know. Now, every time you call one of those politicians, it's like, well, he's in D.C. Both of them, the congressman and the senator. He's in D.C. for the whole month. Okay, I called D.C. Well, he's busy in a meeting, but if you're in Mobile, you may want to call to the Mobile office. Very well. Call the Mobile office. Oh, well, he's not available right now. He's been so busy. You need to call the scheduler up in D.C. I call the scheduler. Well, the only way to get in touch with the scheduler is via email. Okay, good luck. Good luck getting a hold of these politicians. No, I've had enough. When I was living with Andy Trahan, and I learned firsthand that he was monitoring phone calls for the jail system, and then I learned that here in this very state, for years and years and years, these cops admitted to implanting evidence on targeting black Afro-Americans. And good luck getting out of jail when you don't have representation. No, good luck. Good luck. No, you're in there because somebody's making money off of you. And every time these people complained about these calling cards, they were like, I contacted this company, I got a phone card for $500, and I'm not my relative is not able to use it in jail, and it's like talk to the hand because I ain't listening, and good luck getting your money back. Good luck. Because when you call the company, they say the customer service representative, either doesn't know or they don't know that I already talked to somebody last week, and they're not keeping track of, like if I call last week, they don't have that in their system, and then it's somebody else somewhere else. It sounds like a company I know a few years ago, okay? Now, it used to be that when I paid my AT&T phone call, I had to go to the Piggly Wiggly and go over there and pay in person, and it was easy peasy. And a few years later, fast forward a few years later, it's like call AT&T, and it's like you get somebody from all over the place, and they don't have record of the conversation they had with you last week when you were complaining about the same thing you're complaining about this week, and the same thing you're going to complain about next week. And good luck getting your money back. Oh no, ma'am. It's ridiculous, and everybody's complaining about their own government, oppressing them, and their own government, cheating them, and so everybody's fleeing to where the grass is greener. Okay, what happens is the grass is greener for them somewhere else, but it's taking the resources away from the people, the local people, and this is how you end up with destabilization of our economies. Okay, let us talk about micro and macroeconomics. I've had enough because of the hypocrisy. I cannot lose my son Alexander. I can't. Because life sucks without my son. And my father gave me my child to enjoy. But when I have people telling me, oh, you're lazy staying at home and you need to go housekeeping. And when you try to go get a job housekeeping, you don't get a job housekeeping, but you may get a job waiting tables. And you're being told you're not good enough. Okay, but when you had the idea of a master menu with the smoke outside, you were like a nobody, and you were too young, and you were too pretentious, or whatever, too foreign. It's like, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. Maybe that's not even your idea. It's like, who are you? Where's your degree? That's exactly how I got treated. I don't care. What is the point of me going to school now? Oh no, ma'am. Who's going to teach me anything? Okay, I'm telling you something. I learned a lot on the job training. On the job training is you respect people, they respect you, you work as a team, you work well as an individual, you do what is required of you, but I don't like false documentation, and I certainly don't like anybody making up and putting me as the scapegoat. Oh, because somebody stole $1,000 from the company and now we're like missing $1,000, and Susan, she's the F up, she's our scapegoat. It's like, no, I am not going to do it. When I worked for an attorney in Ocean Springs, Mississippi, okay, they were advertising speaking Spanish. I went to the interview, and even though the gentleman, his primary language is English, and I was speaking English perfectly, he insisted he wanted to conduct the interview in Spanish. So we did. And he asked me, ¿Cuánto quieres? And I said, and he meant salary. And I said, I want 12 an hour. And he said, double that, el doble. And I said, okay, perfect. I get my first paycheck directly from the accountant, and it was under $10 an hour. And I said, under $10 an hour, I asked for 12 and I was told double. And she said, well, that cannot be because not even the legal, I'm coming, honey, not even the legal assistant. I'm sorry. Do you need help? Here. And she said, not even the legal assistants make that kind of money. And I said, well, I was told that I was going to be making twice as much. And she said, well, no, that must have been a misunderstanding. You may want to go back and talk to him. So I went back and talked to him. And he said, oh, no, you misunderstood. I meant $24,000 a year. And I was just like, okay. all the while, when I was there as a receptionist, I was getting phone calls from different people asking me if I was Rosie or if I knew Rosie, because she was supposed to be some Brazilian translator. And apparently she translated in Spanish as well. But from what I heard, her Spanish was not very good. I guess it's just as good as my Portuguese. It's not very good. So I can translate, but it's just not going to be as fluent and as smooth. And so I was translating for the firm. I even went out of sight to a hospital to translate, and I did not get paid extra for that. I was being used as the receptionist while being a translator, not getting paid as a translator, while Rosie was getting paid $150 every time she showed up in court. Now, I don't mind that, okay? But it's like, tell me from the very beginning, that I'm going to be doubling here as this and that and getting, less than $10 an hour from the very beginning to see if I want the job or not. But that's not, it was deceitful, okay? And so before I took the job, while it was supposed to be on the job training with the lady I was taking over, that lady was leaving quicker than lightning. She said, I need to get out of here. I don't have time to really train you thoroughly because Mr. So-and-so, and I'm not going to disclose his name, but she said, Mr. So-and-so, the owner of the firm, the attorney who charged $200 back in 2005 per consultation, per hour. Okay, well, I was getting paid less than $10 an hour. Now, mind you, she said, I need to get out of here because he's threatening to sue me. And I don't know what all transpired before I took over the position, but when I took over the position, that's what happened. And so I asked, the attorney, I said, can you please help me? I'm trying to reach my attorney, because I've been going through this divorce. At the time, it had been 4 years. And I said, it's taken 4 years, and it was 2005. This had been happening since 2001. And I told him, I said, can you please help me? My attorney won't answer the phone. And every time I go, his office, like I used to go to his office, I could see him through the blinds that he was there with his feet up on the desk, and he would not answer the phone, or nor would he answer the door when I knocked on the door. It was during business hours. It's like as soon as he took the $2,500, that's it. It was like talk to the hand, because good luck getting your money back. Now, this is why my mom says I owe my stepfather. I was telling my mother and my sister in Florida I could not leave the state of Mississippi because I was told that if I left the state while I was going through a divorce, that I would automatically lose custody of my son. Because I would be charged with abandonment of the home and abandonment of the child. So I could not pursue my education in culinary nutrition and get my degree, my 4-year degree with my GI Bill in culinary nutrition as I had intended. So instead, I went to the library while I was waiting to be called by somebody. I was unemployed for a long time without collecting unemployment. And while I was unemployed at the library, I read about Dr. Martin Luther King and about Mahatma Gandhi and Maria Montessori and President Eisenhower and Albert Einstein. And they were my inspiration besides my son Jacob. And I read the entire book of Revelation. And this is because something came to me. Okay, and it was in my heart and in my mind, and that's all that I could see. That was my vision and my mission. Okay, and I was inspired, and everything that I've done out of charity and out of love has been genuine. I did not charge for it, but I certainly don't appreciate me being in a position where I cannot afford, to pay my bills and then end up being, the one who's irresponsible, indebted, as I did in Mississippi. Oh no, when I came here to Mobile, I thought it was a fresh slate. And when I came in here with an illegal immigrant, but I'm always going to be criticized whether I'm married to an American who's in the military, who's much older than I, or if I'm with an illegal immigrant. Whatever I do, it's wrong because people don't like what I do, because everybody is listening and they're not understanding what the heck is really happening. Why? We need to understand, just like the Bible, we cannot take it out of context. We need to know, who is God speaking to at the time he's speaking to, because otherwise they're going to say God is contradicting himself. They're going to think that the Bible's a bunch of bull hockey. They're going to say, no, he's talking about killing the Israelites and punishing the Israelites, and and letting Babylon take care of them, and just neglect them, and he's threatening to leave. His glory is going to leave the temple. And then we hear that, God is our Savior. How can the same God be both? Well, he is, because he's talking to us at different, we need to understand the time, who he was talking to whom, when, why, and where this took place and when in history. Okay, the same thing with me. I cannot have something recalled from 20 years ago. They don't even know why, when, and why, and then apply it to something now, because it's just not. It doesn't. It's not logical. It doesn't work that way. It's like paying for something over and over and over and over and over, and people don't even. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying I'm a victim. I'm a survivor. But I'm not going to sit back and let somebody do surgery on Alexander that has that is just potentially dangerous. My brother Stephen passed away after surgery, after open heart surgery. He ended up having a stroke, and my mom and stepfather donated his organs. And now I'm not opposed to that, but I am opposed to all of this organ harvesting that's going on throughout the world. There's a lot of children disappearing. There's a lot of Medicaid scam going on. Okay, and there's a lot of corruption everywhere, and DHR is very well aware of that. And I know y'all are trained to, that you don't get a bonus until you have a certain amount of kids, and no kids, no money. And the state needs to understand that the family unit is the most important unit. That the more we help families recover, the better for our economy, because the more people will spend, the more that the poor can be elevated, the more they will be able to spend and help our economies throughout the world. If all countries understood that helping their own, because when people are fleeing and neglecting their towns, they're neglecting it, and the economy along with it. And that's why we have a mass destabilization of our economies, and mass immigration, and just all kinds of things going on in the world. Okay, we need to together recover our communities. We need to bring. God has never left. We are the ones who didn't want God. We're the ones, neglecting God, and we're the ones denying God and thinking that we're above God, and making our own skewed laws. And these laws are passed, and these things that are written, that were written long ago, become laws, that are just dated. We just need to reconsider, what we're doing. This is a new generation of people. We have different needs now.
Okay. Miss Ballerina?
Yes.
Okay, now listen to you talk for 48 minutes now. I'm just trying to figure out, so you were calling because you want another worker?
Yes. I want a worker who's not going to be neglecting Alexander and passing him around to these different foster homes and writing allegations on his record. Mr. Sanders never did that.
Here's my issue with Ballerina. Every worker you've had an issue with.
Not with Mr. Sanders.
Yes, you did, actually.
Well, Mr. Sanders was playing this loud music with Alexander in the back one time, and that was the only issue that I had. And I also suspected that he was going to be given a new car. Which, yes, because he was telling me his car was wrecked, and he was telling me that he was waiting on the insurance to kick in, and all of a sudden he was driving a brand new car.
You seem to find trouble with every worker that we've had.
Well, because the worker had come to my apartment and seen that it was clean and organized and serviceable. Okay, when I was working at Tanner's Pecan, I was offered a job after I had already worked at the Battle House Hotel full time. They started telling me that you need to check the schedule every day. Every day you need to check the schedule because every day we make changes. So it was like working day shift, night shift, day shift, night shift. That's not good for anybody. That's not fair because even in the medical field, we worked 4 days on, 4 days off, 3 days on, 3 days off. Okay, we knew well in advance what our schedule was going to be like, not at the Battle House. So I said, okay, fine. One time I didn't show up on a Sunday because I didn't know I was working. So, okay, so I took a job at Tanner's Pecan when they offered it to me, which was a full-time job as an office manager. Okay, while I was working there, I was pretty much, answering the phones, doing petty stuff. Now, I don't need anybody to really train me on 1 + 1 is 2, which is basically what was happening. Okay, and it was like, why was I offered this job? It was like not literally 1 + 1 is 2, but it was to give you an example. And I'm just like, okay, I was offered an office manager position, okay. So my coworker, who was the one who invited me there for a job to begin with, she charged me $10 to watch Alexander one time when she babysat for me. She didn't babysit for free. Now, I've never charged a friend to babysit. If they want to pay me and insist on paying me, I'll take it. But I can count with not even 3 fingers how many times I've ever done that. Okay, I don't charge people for babysitting their kids. But she charged me to babysit my kid the same amount of money that I was going to be making at the Battle House when she babysat my son. So this very lady, okay, called me, because the owners of the business were looking for a job, or a person to fill the position. So I took on the position, and I was being told that, I'm being exploited. This job, I have to lift too much weight, and I feel exploited. I think I'm gonna quit. Well, this lady quit overnight, and the owner of the business put me in the middle and asked me, well, why didn't you tell me she was quitting? And I said, well, excuse me, but I didn't know she was quitting like today. She was telling me that she was thinking about quitting, but that's not for me to be repeating. So you see how they want Susan to be the scapegoat? I don't think so. I'm tired of these games here in Mobile, and I'm tired of it. Okay, so I was told before, she quit that, I wish that she would speak English because she would be able to communicate better. It's like, okay, whatever. Okay, I wasn't criticizing anybody. The bottom line is, this lady quit, and all of a sudden the computers broke, had a virus. Okay, and the owners were like, well, we don't need you anymore. And it was like, okay, well, good luck getting a job. For 2 months I was unemployed, so I sold my car in order to be able to stay at that very apartment that Mr. Sanders had already seen and was well aware of, and knew that it was clean and serviceable and organized because I'm a clean person. Okay, when I lived with Charity, that was her mama's idea for me to help Charity out so that Charity could help me out, which was a bunch of baloney. Okay, when I moved out of that apartment, I was in moving process. I was talking to a gentleman who actually died that day when he was supposed to be showing me another apartment. And the reason why I was moving out of Charity's is because she was filthy on purpose. So with that being said, I have my standard of living. She would do it on purpose. She was charging me $100 a week to live there. And she would purposely leave her laundry in the washer to mold. The entire refrigerator had mildew food for 2 weeks that the electricity was not running prior to me living there. So I feel like I was being used, and when I went in there and cleaned up, I was being told by a lady from church, oh, well, just keep on cleaning after charity. You're just going to have to suck it up, And I was telling this lady from church, I said, Mr. and Mrs. Miller are telling me to be quiet and not to say anything in court. Now, mind you that the psychologist who didn't perform my psychological evaluation, Dr. Carney, he committed perjury in court. He said I wanted to sell my son. Elaborated for 45 minutes. Elaborated. So to waste the time in court. I showed up at 8 o'clock. The judge didn't show up until 9:30. When I went back in the court, eventually at 3:45, Dr. Carney elaborated for 45 minutes, and then they said, I cross-examined Dr. Carney. I asked him 3 questions. After the third question, they kind of looked at each other and they wrapped it up, and they were like, well, we need to take a break. They took a break, and then DHR took turns with another attorney that came out, like teaming up against me, a solo player. Now, I don't play games. The only game I like to play is Uno with my son. But now, how do I not know that this other attorney, quote unquote, the one with the long reddish blonde hair, how do I not know that she is from some pharmaceutical company? Because she was concerned about my using homeopathic eye drops. She was concerned, about those kind of things. She wasn't concerned much about anything else. So how do I not know that these people are coming in, from pharmaceutical companies, targeting parents who are about, homeopathic medicine or holistic medicine? No. There's a lot of Medicaid fraud. Okay, just to put these kids on medication. And this is a fraud, waste, and abuse of our money. Okay, that's what I learned in the military. About fraud, waste, and abuse, we're supposed to report it. So I'm reporting. And Dr. Carney did not perform my evaluation. I didn't even meet that man for more than 15 minutes total for my evaluation. And then, Alexander had to get a psychological evaluation when he was supposed to be reunited with me. Miss Fluker, of course, she was following advice. She, during an ISP, she said, I'm making a recommendation at the ISP. I'm making a recommendation. I believe that Alexander needs evaluation too before we place him back with Miss Valerino, even though they already knew that I was in potential suicidal, and even though Shantes Parker and Miss Haywood, who picked up my son illegally and unlawfully, okay, they had already signed a paper stating that there was no justification for withholding my son from me. They gave me that piece of paper. I had already completed parenting class, okay? And they were supposed to reunify my son with me, but they didn't because Miss Fluker, she was recommending that my son have a psychological evaluation because he was misbehaving. Oh, he was misbehaving because she had passed him around 5 different homes. I counted it. 5 different homes in a month and a half before being placed with Miss Vilma. Okay? Now you tell me this is not only fraud, waste, and abuse, but this is hypocritical of America, and this is hypocritical of the psychological, community. Okay? So because they know what's good and not good, and y'all are doing the opposite. Okay, when Alexander went through that psychological evaluation, Miss Fluker dropped him off, but she didn't pick him up. Oh no, it was a Mr. Jones who smelled like cigarettes. Now I don't know this Mr. Jones. I don't know him. And now all of a sudden I'm supposed to be okay with my son being picked up by strangers in the to and from? Yeah, when my son, I single-handedly dropped my son off at school, single-handedly picked him up, asked him, how was your day, Alexander? We would talk about it and go to the park afterwards. My son and I had a schedule and a routine, okay? And all of a sudden I'm supposed to be okay with a Mr. Jones or whatever strangers, taking him to chaperoning him to the bathroom. I'm supposed to be okay with that? No ma'am. This is conditioning the kids that, first of all, you cannot trust your mommy and daddy. or you cannot trust, your caregiver, the lady who had custody of you, because she didn't come back and get you. She's not cooperating with us. And she's, look how long it's taken her. Not only that, but you're conditioning them to being around strangers so that they lose their fear of strangers. Now, there are kids that are being prostituted in these group homes, being picked up by caseworkers, and this is legitimate news, this is not hearsay, okay? These are caseworkers who are picking up these kids, hooking them up with older men. Do you think that this is for the children? No. All of this is to separate the children from the mom so they end up in the group homes. They end up in jail. And who's getting richer? The psychologists? The caseworkers? The people in the jail system making money off these phone calls, monitoring phone calls, and conducting scientific experiments in psychological monitoring of these people, studies. All of these people are learning and they're not paying. As far as I'm concerned, when y'all go get your degree and y'all go to school to get your degree, you have to pay the professor because you're learning something. Somebody's taking the time to teach you. So when you study people, you don't pay them, so they're free guinea pigs. So all of this, the way you look at people, so clinical, you look at their every flaw. You look at their every flaw, and that's what you get paid to do all day. Just look at them. Just look at their body language, and look at them. Zoom into their lips, zoom into their feet, and you zoom in, and you see every pimple, and you blow it up. And it looks like your outer space before you know it, when you're looking and investigating their every flaw in their bodies. Well, you just keep that up. That's not of God. No, we're so busy looking up at Uranus, and Uranus, we all know that the brightest ring is the Epsilon ring. Well, I am the Epsilon correction, Miss Haggerty, okay? And I don't appreciate what y'all are doing to humanity with your psychology. President Eisenhower warned us about this in his farewell speech. Okay? All of this is a war against the family unit. The same tactic that is used for physical war to test weapons of mass destruction, while oppressing the quote-unquote little people, while the politicians shake hands behind closed doors. All of this is fraud, waste, and abuse. The very thing that we're supposed to be reporting, the very thing that we're learning in the military. Report fraud, waste, and abuse. That's what they tell us. And so I'm reporting.
Okay. Ms. Valerie, now, I've been listening to you speak about a variety of topics today. And what I got out of it is that you want a new worker for your son.
Yes, and I want somebody who's not going to commit perjury in court.
Okay,
and
well,
somebody
my workers have committed perjury in court.
Yes, she said, Miss Brotniks, and you committed perjury in court. You said my son was scared of me. I have my son.
I did not commit perjury, Miss Valerie.
You told me my son was scared of me, and my son has never said that.
I said that because that is what he stated.
He did not state that, Miss Haggerty, because you're lying. My son has never stated I have him on video. He's not able to speak in front of Miss Brotniks. Miss Brotniks does not let him speak. I'm not able to communicate and properly visit with my son. She has lied numerous times about, we're going to take him to an eye doctor. And every time I see my son, he's got a goofy haircut. His glasses keep getting thicker like hers. And he's missing a temple out of his glasses. You tell me.
You mentioned that earlier. So, I will discuss this and see if there is another worker. But right now, Ms. Broadnax will remain the worker until I make a decision.
So you are the supervisor.
I'm the program manager for foster care.
Okay. Well, you are a psychologist and you're doing studies with Alexander and with me.
I am not a psychologist.
You are performing studies on my son and I, and that's not right.
Are you babysitting somebody?
No, she's at somebody's house.
Okay.
You would not like this being done unto you, for you to be studied with your husband in your home and your children.
Okay. Well, again, I'm not a psychologist. I will discuss the possibility of getting a new worker. Right now, Ms. Broadnex will remain your worker. Have you gotten the counseling that's been recommended for you?
I called Miss Brown's secretary yesterday. I left a message. I told her I was available next week. I called back again today, and I had to tell her 3 times that I am open, but that it was between her and Miss Brown and Miss Broadnex to come up with a date and then let me know, because I so far don't have a schedule for next week. But when they call me, I need to tell them yes or no and not be wishy-washy. Otherwise, they're not going to
I'm
want...
referring to counseling, not a meeting with your attorney, Ms. Ballerina. Have you...
This is for the ISP.
Correct.
And now,
But we've been discussing you getting counseling for quite a number of months, almost years at this point.
because what you're doing is you're taking my son away from me based on allegations that I'm potentially suicidal. You're making recommendations based on those allegations.
Michael, stop.
When
I'm making these recommendations because that was part of your psychological evaluation.
Based
The
on-
other part is that you clearly have some mental health issues that need to be addressed.
I don't have any mental health issues, Miss Haggerty. You are a brainwasher, okay? I have done work here in this country, and my work speaks for itself. Y'all are the ones that are psychologically warped, brainwashing people. Y'all like to get into people's homes and study them without their knowledge or permission, and then when they don't want you in their homes, and when they feel your energy there, your negative energy there, then you're like, oh, they need evaluation. Dr. Carney committed perjury in court. He said that I wanted to sell my son. Now, I did not sit with that man for more than 15 minutes total. My son had an evaluation based on allegations that he was having problems with his behavior after he was passed around 5 different homes. Do you see how y'all are warped? You are psychologically warped, brainwashing the people. Okay? I'm sick and tired of it.
All right, Ms. Ballerina, well, I will go discuss this with supervisor, and we can get back with you.
Thank you.